Порылась шлюхи, блять, мать твою, ебал. Блядь, сука!
Кого ты нервно?
Idiots, you stand, you dumb fucks, you Jimmy Johnny.
No, we watch as I
I'm French. French. I'm French.
Language. Languages are, as Google defines it, the principal methods of human communication consisting of words used in a structured and conventional way and conveyed by speech, writing, or gesture, or a system of communication used in a particular country or community. Ever since high school, I've been fascinated by other languages. I had already spoken English fluently at the time because I've been listening to it online since I came across the internet when I was 6 years old. My dad introduced me to this website called Miniclip, and on it, I found a game that was called Club Penguin, Waddle Around and Meet Friends. I made an account where I called myself Flapatup, roughly translated to Money Tap. My dad gave me that as a nickname because I thought back then that ATMs were just machines that gave you free money. I walked around and I realized that I could barely understand what anyone was saying, or typing. But after hopping on time after time again, I started to understand more and more.
This is what learning a language is all about. Repetition, doing it over and over and over again.
And that can be very difficult. You might not have the time for it or get bored of it quickly. These are totally valid reasons for people not to learn a language. And I struggle with it too to this day. I'm currently learning 2 languages, which are Japanese, that I started back in 2017, and Norwegian, which I've been doing for a month or 2 now. I'll get to that one in a moment. Let me start by explaining you the process of me learning an entirely new language from a country that's about 9,000 kilometers away from mine. So as some of you might have guessed, yeah, it started with anime, which I got introduced to by a friend back in 2016. I'm saying introduced because anime is not a good source to learn Japanese from. I know some people out there still think that, but no.
You're not going to be using your newfound skills to talk to anime girls. Because newsflash, they don't exist.
Wake up!
Yet.
Anyways, before that, the Japanese language had been scattered around the world in the form of food, memes, and YouTuber merchandise. So it had already piqued my interest. Not only that, I had also found a love for learning about other cultures. These interests combined led me to go on a 3-month trip to Tokyo to learn Japanese in an international school where I made a lot of friends from all over the world. But before all this crazy stuff happened, I felt like I had to learn a bit of the Japanese language before I actually arrived there. I started by getting to know the fundamentals of a completely foreign language, the alphabet. The Japanese language has 3 of them, 2 of which you can learn within a day or 2. Trust me, you can look it up. And this is where dedication plays a big role. The more dedicated you are, the faster you learn. Obvious enough. Hey, we don't have music. Hey! We don't have music!
Oh, shit, sorry. Here you go.
I mean, this is a language we're talking about. But not entirely. You see, most people get scared by the idea of learning a whole language, because it's time-consuming or difficult. But what if I told you don't need to learn the whole language? Take for example the 2 alphabets, Hiragana and Katakana. These 2 are basically the same thing. Katakana is basically Hiragana, but for foreign words such as ramen, which is Chinese. Yeah, it's also typically used in concepts for merchandise, because it looks cooler. Hiragana is the basic form of the entire Japanese alphabet, and the ABCs for Japanese children. So if kids can learn it, you can too, because you're no child. Or, well, maybe you are. But you're still grown enough to watch this video, so you should be able to learn the foundation of the Japanese language. To make things easier on yourself, try using, what's that called again? Mnemonics. Yeah, mnemonics. For example, take the hiragana for This is basically how some people write the letter N. It looks similar. It's also the only character that ends with a consonant. Knowing this, you will guess this hiragana based on it looking like an N that is the only one that ends with a consonant. From here on out, you can learn each one with the help of other mnemonics you can find online. And when it comes to the more difficult one, kanji, you should just start with the easy ones like tree, grove, and forest. Some of them make more sense than you think. Now, remember I said you can learn hiragana in a day or two? What if I told you you could learn it in 10 seconds?
Take it away, KK.
Another way to learn a language is to download Duolingo. The app pushes you to keep learning by sending you death threats and giving you rewards in competition. I've used this app a lot when I started out with Japanese, and I'm still using it to learn Norwegian. Although, getting back to Hiragana and Katakana, you should probably learn that on your own by writing them and going through the charts because that's more efficient. Now, Norwegian I started recently because I'm planning my second trip where I go on exchange for 5 months. To learn about something, I don't know. But I'm excited to learn about the Norwegian language, culture, and experience its beautiful nature. So I found out while learning the basics of Norwegian that it sounds very, very similar to Dutch. Maybe not as similar as German, but definitely similar. Take this sentence for example. Hey, what are we reading? Hey, wat lezen wij? Hey, waar leser vi?
To me, it just sounds like a Northern Dutch dialect. And that brings me to my next point. Similarity.
If you're a European watching this, congratulations. You have now entered the f***ing lottery when it comes to similar words. For all you Westerners out there, don't let this discourage you in any way. There are always people who have it better than others when it comes down to anything. But whether you go for it or not, that's what makes the difference. Let's say you were to learn Spanish, or well, Mexican, common in both the West and Europe. That also has a lot of similar words with languages like French, Italian, and Portuguese. So, in short, all you need to do is start learning, and eventually you're going to notice that everything you've learned up until a certain point starts coming together.
And with that, you've reached my level. And final point. Mastering.
So the way that I've been learning and mastering things such as languages and accents is by mimicking them. Just listen long enough and your brain will remember how to say something. Then you can basically already impersonate or almost fully copy something. You can now speak a language on a basic level. Great job! If this isn't the case, or you don't think that it's the case, after learning for months already, then mastery is an important way to build up that confidence. Mastery can be seen in different forms, just like the fact that there are multiple infinites of something. You can count infinitely from 0 to 1, or
From 0 to infinite.
you can master the basics of a language or master the entire language itself, but that takes too long. So you've been learning a couple sentences, words, alphabets, but you're not comfortable using them when talking to locals. This happens a lot, and it's totally normal. The best way to relieve yourself from this, though, is to master the things that you already know. It really doesn't take that much to talk with a local Japanese person, for example. Trust me, I know. All you need to know are these simple words. Hai, iie, konnichiwa, arigato, and des. And hi both mean yes. Being a nod indicating you understand what the other person is saying to you. Iie means no. And that's not being used often because it comes off as kind of rude. Konnichiwa you probably already know by now, but it means hello, or literal translation, this day is. Ha being spelled instead of wa. Arigato is of course thank you. Being the Japanese version of des being an indicator of you confirming something is true. If you want to say your name, for example, say Philip des.
Watashi wa Lieutenant Dan.
Watashi wa Lieutenant Dan, Forrest. Don't forget.
Lieutenant Dan Des.
You gotta say des. It makes it more polite, Forrest.
It's the ending of a sentence. It's much like a period, but it's very polite.
It's called the Japanese copula. Desu, Forrest. But don't say desu because you'll sound like a girl.
If you use these simple words when having a conversation with a Japanese person, you'd eventually reach the point of the Nihongo jouzu desu ne, or as the already fluent Baka Gaijins like to say, getting Nihongo jouzu. Jozu in this context meaning good, but you still have a long way to go. But you're on my level now. You're comfortable with speaking with Japanese people, you kinda get what's being said on the Japanese news or other Japanese content. And you get to experience Boris Johnson butchering not only his own language, but also the Japanese language.
Konnichiwa, watashi no namae wa Boris Johnson, London Shishu des. Hi folks,
Right, honourable gentlemen, all up and then you put up taxes on inheritance and pensions and...
And that's it. All the stages of learning a language from at least my perspective. Now all you need is your perspective. And of course, you need to have fun with it while you get through this whole process. That's why you should probably watch a show where they talk the language you want to learn, or watch the local news. Just by consistently listening day after day, you'll learn a whole lot without even noticing it. And that's how I was able to make this video for you today. Thanks for watching.